Hey y'all, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another missing persons case. So if you're ready, let's go. So before we get started, I just got a couple of things to say. So I'm filming in the daytime, which usually I film at night when all the kids are asleep, or like when the kids are away for the weekend or something like that. But today I'm filming in the daytime, so if y'all hear my kids, just like act like y'all don't, because I mean they kids and they loud. But after next week, I'm gonna try to be like so much more consistent, where I'm gonna try to upload twice a week, with a missing persons case being on Monday and then a true crime case being on like Wednesday or Friday. Y'all let me know in the description box which one y'all would prefer, because I know I'm gonna do the missing person case on Mondays because that's my Missing Monday series. But as far as the true crime episode, I don't know if I want to do it on Wednesday or Friday, because if I do it on Wednesday, I'm really probably going to feel crunched for time to make sure that I get it done by Wednesday in an effort to be consistent. But if I do it on Friday, I might get lazy throughout the week. So I'm going to just let y'all decide. I'm going to let y'all figure out whether I'm being a time crunch or be getting lazy. Other than that, I think we're ready to get on into the video. So today we're going to be talking about Tionda and Diamond Bradley. You guys may have heard of this case, you may not have, but it's been a long-standing case, and these two young girls are still missing. So I'm gonna just go ahead and get right into their story. So Diamond and Tionda Bradley were both born to Tracy Bradley, and as of right now we are only familiar with Diamond's father, whose name is George Washington. And I'm sorry y'all, I cannot not picture the actual one of our founding fathers, George Washington, when I hear that name. I can only imagine growing up with a name like that. He was probably picked on, because I would pick on him. I mean, I'm not a bully or nothing like that, but like, I mean, bro, your name's George Washington. You're an old white man. Anyway, Tionda was born on January 20th, 1991, and Diamond was born on November 25th, 1997. They also have two older sisters born to their mother, Tracy. Tionda is described as a very protective sister over her younger sister, Diamond, and she's quiet when she don't know you, but around family, she is just like this ball of energy. She just is like so radiant, and Tionda loved to dance. There didn't have to be no music in sight. All she needed was the beat in her head, and she would just start dancing. And everybody knew this about Tionda, and when I hear that, I feel like I can relate to that so much, because not only are Tionda and I like close in age, we are the same in that I don't have to hear no music to just bust out and random dance. Like, I'm not a dancer per se, but just to bust out and random dance or just start singing a tune that I got in my head, like, I can relate to her on that level so much. So just this case is so crazy for me. But anyways, Diamond was described as just a shy, beautiful little girl, and the same goes for her as her sister, whereas she was kind of like timid around strangers, but if she knew you, she was just balls out, like doing whatever, however, just a ball of energy, just loving life, being a typical 3-year-old. So at the time of this case taking place, they lived in Chicago, Illinois, on the south side of Chicago, and life was pretty much normal. Tracy and George, they kind of had like an on-off relationship after Diamond was born. They were going through some type of custody agreement or some type of legal, they was going through some type of legal thing. I'm not sure whether it was child support, custody, or whatever the deal was, but they had this legal thing going on. But even though they did have this like legal side to things, they also still maintained an actual, I don't even know if it was like a relationship, but they did have like dealings with one another. But for the most part, aside from that, Tracy was considered a single mother. She didn't have any of her children's fathers in the household actively being a parent to those children, so she would be considered technically a single mother at this point. So On July 6, 2001, Tionda is 10 years old and Diamond is just 3 years old. And for whatever reason, Tracy's two older girls were staying at their grandmother's house. They stayed the night at their grandmother's house. And on July 6th, Tracy had to go to work. And like many other parents during that time period, especially single black parents, she felt like it was okay to leave Tionda and Diamond at home alone. And before we get like judgmental about her leaving her 10-year-old alone with her 3-year-old, y'all got to remember that this is the early 2000s, and I can remember a lot of people, like people that I grew up with, myself included, myself and my sister, we were left at home alone because our parents had to go out and make money to sustain our life. We had to live, we had to eat. They had to go to work so that they could take care of their responsibilities. And a lot of the times the children were left at home alone. And like I said, it just wasn't uncommon to leave children at home alone, especially 10 and up, to care for either themselves or younger children. So I can understand her leaving the children at home alone. I've been left at home alone at the age of 10, and I knew very well, do not answer that door. Do not answer that phone. I don't care if it's Jesus knocking. Don't answer the phone or the door. And this is the same mentality that Tracy had with her children. So at this point, Tionda is very capable of taking care of herself and her sister, because like I said, she was an overprotective sister. And a part of her personality that I forgot to describe in the beginning was that she was one of those, what do I want to say? How do I want to say this? She was one of those kids who was just like stuck on doing the right thing. Like if mama said don't do it, she not gonna do it. And her older sisters kind of described her as like a little tattletale. She like, if the older sisters did something that they knew they wasn't supposed to do around Tionda was gonna tell them that they was wrong, and she was gonna tell them that she was telling mama, because you're not supposed to be doing that. So Tracy felt very comfortable leaving Tionda at home because she knew that her daughter was a rule follower. If she told her don't answer the phone and don't answer the door, Tionda's not answering the phone, nor is she answering the door. And so with that, Tracy went to work around 6:00 p.m., leaving her two daughters, Diamond and Tionda, home alone, and just set on about her day. The good thing about Tracy's job was that she worked at some type of day camp where she was there at 6 in the morning, but she was also off by 12 o'clock, or 11:30, 12 o'clock. So it wouldn't be too long that she was away from her children, but long enough for her to make a phone call in the middle of her shift just to make sure that her kids were okay. And that's exactly what she did. She called the house to make sure that Tionda and Diamond were okay. Even though Tracy told Tionda not to answer the phone, we had caller IDs at this point, so we knew when it was mom calling or when it was somebody else calling, and Tionda would have picked up for her mom. But this particular day, Tionda did not answer the phone, but Tracy didn't think too much of it because she did leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. She just figured that her girls had gone back to sleep, and that's just what it was. And just as Tracy had called Tionda actually ended up calling Tracy that morning as well. However, when she called Tracy, Tracy's phone call went unanswered also, probably because, she was working in the middle of doing something and wasn't able to answer her phone. But Tionda did leave a message for her mother, which we will talk about a little bit later. Unfortunately, though, when Tracy got back home, she found herself walking into an empty apartment. Her two girls weren't there anymore. And there was a note left by Tionda that stated that the girls were going to walk to the corner store and go to the park, which didn't too much make any sense to Tracy because she knew that Tionda would not leave that apartment without permission from her mother. So it was kind of strange. And why would she leave a note when she could just call? Nevertheless, Tracy went out and she went to start looking for her girls. She checked the playground, she checked the corner store to see if anybody had seen the kids there. She checked all the avenues, and then later on that evening, around 6 o'clock, she called police because At this point, she's panicking. She can't find her kids. She don't know where they are. All she has is this note left by Tionda saying they're going to the corner store and to the park, but there's no children in sight, nowhere to be found. So she called the police. And the police were a little perturbed about the fact that she waited so long to call them. But Tracy said that the reason she waited so long to call them was because she was afraid. She was afraid that CPS would take her children away from her. And so that's why she didn't call the police initially. But she didn't have a choice because she just couldn't find them. And so naturally, the police start looking into the case. They checked the playground, they checked the corner store, they checked pretty much all of the same places that Tracy had already checked. But being that they're police, they probably have access to way more things like video footage and just people willing to cooperate or not more than they would be willing to with just a regular citizen. And so they went through all those avenues, but at the end of the day, they didn't have anything concrete to go on besides this note, which still just didn't make sense to anyone. And so they started looking into George, and they started talking to George, and they found out that George picked up Tracy from work that day, and he took her home. And when she couldn't find her kids, he decided to leave. Like he left. He didn't want to look for the kids with her, even though Diamond is his child. It's kind of weird that you wouldn't want to look for your kid, but neither here nor there. He left, and they didn't really too much have much on him at the time, so they had to let him go. The police also found it weird that Tracy, she had kind of changed her story up quite a few times. So one of the stories that Tracy gave them was that she was at home that day and she took a nap, she woke up and the kids were gone. And another story was that she wasn't at home that day, but she came home by herself. She never mentioned that Gregory was there. And then finally the story was that Gregory had actually spent the night with her, took her to work, and then also picked her up from work. Even though the police found that Tracy's statements were kind of like, why is you changing your story? They didn't really have any real concrete evidence to say that she had anything to do with this either. So they really couldn't do a lot with her, even though they questioned her for hours and hours and hours on end, like so many hours, because a lot of the things that Tracy was saying, they just didn't make sense and they didn't add up to the police. So they kept interrogating her, but excuse me, at the end of the day, they didn't have anything on her either, like any evidence against her. So they had to let her go as well. So the investigation continues. They're working on any lead that they might get. Some of the children in the neighborhood, they said that they saw Tionda and Diamond at the playground that day, but the police really didn't feel like the kids really knew that they saw them that day. They felt like maybe they was getting their days mixed up. And so those leads never really went anywhere at all. At some point during the investigation, the police started talking to Tionda and Diamond's family members, and one of their aunts, Sheila, said that while Tracy was down at the police station being questioned, the family was getting together, just trying to come up with any theories, just talk about the disappearance, try to figure things out, comfort each other and everything like that. And Tracy had left her phone with the family, and they decided to just listen to her messages. Just a little instinct to listen to their messages, to listen to Tracy's messages. And this aunt said that about her and 10 other family members heard on the messages that Tionda actually left Tracy a message that day. Remember I said that she called her mom and left a message? Well, this was the message that she left. It says something to the effect of, Mama, answer the phone. Mama, George is at the door. Can I open it? He said that we're going to go to Jules to get a cake. And we're going to come pick you up from work. Can I open the door? And the context of this message, this alleged message, because for some reason it has now been lost, deleted, or never saved, or whatever the case may be. But according to this alleged message, George was at the door. Now, I did say that Diamond's dad's name was George Washington. However, there was another guy named George, and he was the babysitter who lived in the same apartment complex as Diamond and Tionda. So there was George Sr., the babysitter, and there was George Washington, Diamond's dad. And it's unclear of which George Tionda may have been talking about, but the fact that he mentioned a cake and picking up Tracy from work, the police were more inclined to believe that the George that Tionda was talking about was Diamond's dad, because the next day, on July 7th, would have been Diamond and Tionda's older sister, one of their older sister's birthday. And they were planning either a birthday party or to go camping. Now, the camping thing, nobody really understands, because Tracy said that they were supposed to go camping for their sister's birthday, but they had never been camping before. And it's not weird for people to go camping who have never been camping. However, it is strange for people to go camping and not prepare to go camping, if that makes sense. Like, there was no evidence of like tents, water canisters, just like nothing campy was ever found. Like, nobody bought no camping gear. So it, like, y'all ain't got no sleeping bags, y'all just gonna sleep on the ground, like y'all ain't got no tents, y'all just thugging it out outside, or what? Like in the wilderness. And remember, I also said that George, Diamond's dad, did pick up Tracy from work that day. So the police are really thinking that George, it's that George. So they get a search warrant, and George allows them to, I don't know, I'm not sure if they get a search warrant or George allows them. Either way, they searched George's house and car, and in the car they found a receipt for Home Depot. And at Home Depot, he bought trash bags, gloves, and oh my god, trash bag, gloves, and something else. I can't quite remember what the last thing was. But altogether, the items were very, very suspicious. But even though they had this receipt for all these very, very suspicious items, they still couldn't prove anything. Not against him, not against Tracy, not against anybody at all. And unfortunately, that's where the case remains. We have absolutely no idea what happened to Diamond and Tionda. However, there are a couple of theories that are floating out there. One of the theories is that someone potentially got into the apartment somehow and abducted them, which unlikely, because Tionda wasn't answering the door for somebody that she didn't know. Theory number 2, George Sr., the babysitter, he was the one who came to the door, and he is the one who abducted the children and did something with them. Theory number 3 is that George Washington, Diamond's father, was the George who was at the door, and he is the one who took them. Theory number 4, they left the apartment by themselves and they were abducted in that way. And theory number 5 is that Tracy may have had something to do with it also. None of those theories have been proven. None of those theories, well, I'm pretty sure all of those theories have been looked into. But again, the police still have come up with absolutely nothing in this case. It's been 21 years since Diamond and Tionda have gone missing. Tionda today would be 31 years old and Diamond would be 24 years old. And the family is still looking for them. Every year since their disappearance, the family holds a vigil at Taylor Park in Chicago, Illinois, and they pray that someday, somehow, that the girls are returned to them. And it's said that every time the family hears that there have been remains found, they're on this, like, they have like a range of emotions. On one hand, they pray that potentially these are Diamond and Tionda's remains, so that they can get a proper answer, a proper closure, some type of answers to what may have happened to these girls. But then on the other hand, they are praying that they're not Diamond and Tionda, so that they can still hold out hope that potentially the girls are still out there somewhere. And it's so sad because one of the family members, she was just like, we're still looking for little girls. But the truth of the matter is, at this point, if they are still here with us, they're grown women. And that they're stuck pretty much in 2001 as far as the girls are concerned. They are very, very hopeful that someday, some way, somehow, they receive answers in this case, good or bad. That is all that we have for this case. If you guys know anything, and I mean anything, about Diamond and Tionda's disappearance, please contact your local FBI, your local police department, and please, please, please share any information that you may have. Anything is helpful. All tips will be followed up on. Thank you guys so very much for watching. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.